I reckon we can get started.
Okay.
If you're ready to go.
Let's go.
Tell me about that Michigan trip. We can start off with that.
We'll skip that.
Okay. All right. Well, how'd you get started in bluegrass?
Well, I started at a real young age, at the age of 2, if you believe it or not, clogging, which for the folks that may not know, it's kind of an Appalachian style of buck dancing or tap dancing, whatever you want to call it. But started out on stage with Melvin Goins at the ripe old age of 2, and about the age of 7, I started singing on stage. And that was with Melvin too. Was at the age of 7 singing on stage, and from there I continued singing on stage for a couple of years, or a few years rather, until about the age of 11. And I taught myself to play guitar and started playing on stage, playing guitar and singing together. And as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah. Did you have a lot of family in bluegrass? Or?
That's the funny thing. I'm the only one in the family that plays any music or sings at all. Most of them will tell you they can't carry a tune in a bucket.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how hardly that I got that gene, but I'm proud to have it and proud to be playing some of this old bluegrass music out and about.
Yeah, I'm glad you are too.
Thank you.
So do you have any big inspirations, that you can remember whenever you were young? Or?
Oh, for sure. I mean, even though the family didn't play music, they played the tapes a lot, the CDs and the records and stuff. And, of course, some of the big influences were the Stanley Brothers and Jimmy Martin and Bill Monroe, the Osborne Brothers. All those old guys were pretty much all I knew up until, the age of 11 or 12 years old, when I started discovering maybe some of the newer acts. And even then the newer acts was like Third Time Out and the Lonesome River Band and stuff, that had already been around still for a long time. But so that's really where kind of I cut my teeth in the bluegrass world, was just growing up on the old forefathers and on the heroes of bluegrass music, and that's really what I've tried to implement into my own style these days, even.
Okay.
With a twist.
Yeah.
I like to tell folks it's tradition with a twist.
What's the twist?
Well, the twist is that, I do a lot of those old songs, but I don't do them exactly strictly the way that they was done on the records. We try to spice them up a little bit, give them a little oomph, a little twist or something there. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty neat. Do you remember your first gig?
Yeah. So the first time that I danced on stage was at the Rattlesnake Ridge Community Center, which is, pretty close to where I live over there in Carter County, and that was with Melvin Goins. And then the first time I sang on stage, which, like I said a few minutes ago, was with Melvin Goins as well, and that was on stage at the Mountain Arts Center for Melvin Goins' homecoming several years ago. I remember they had the governor there, and I think Ralph Stanley might have been there too. But that was a big deal for me. That was cloud 9. I sang Rocky Top.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So how long ago did you really start getting into it? I mean, making it your main thing. Has that always been?
Probably since I started picking up the guitar, which, like I said, was about the age of 11 or 12, and I'm 20 now, if that tells you anything. So I'll let you all do the math, any of the listeners do the math, but so about 6, 7, 8 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And that was really just kind of been the turning point. But in hindsight, I don't think that there is really a time that I recall that music wasn't a big part of my life, whether it was listening to it or playing it.
Yeah, okay. That's pretty neat. And you're only 20 years old. What do you think about other bluegrassers' opinion of you? Do you think that they're scared of you, or?
Well, I don't know. I try to grin and bear and go on. I don't know. I don't think they're scared of me. At least I hope they ain't.
Yeah.
I just try to, like I said, I try to treat everybody right and have a good time. That's all I'm there to do, is have a good time and play some good bluegrass music, and hopefully the folks enjoy it. And so far, so good, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. So tell me about Sunny Side of the Mountain.
Yeah, so that's the latest single that I've got out on Nashville Entertainment Weekly Records. And that's an old traditional bluegrass song that goes back many years. Goes back to the old days of Jimmy Martin, who had a big hit on it in the bluegrass world. Before Jimmy Martin had it out, Hawkshaw Hawkins had a country hit with it. And the original recording goes back to the old Canadian singing ranger, Hank Snow. So me recording Sunny Side of the Mountain was kind of kind of a way to pay tribute to some of the bluegrass and the country guys that come before me and really paved the road, and that I'd always looked up to a whole lot. And so that was really just the inspiration behind that, was just trying to pay tribute to the old ways of bluegrass and country music.
Yeah. So you go on tour a lot, kind of, at least pretty much around the U.S.
Yeah, I try to stay pretty busy.
Yeah. Tell me what that's been like. You got any fun stories on the road, or?
Oh, we could sit here till the cows come home telling stories, and you know that as well as I do with anybody that plays music, whether they play out on the road or just play locally. There's a million stories. Oh man, I don't know. There's been.
You got any that stick out?
I was trying to think of just to narrow it down. Well, I'll tell you this. This here's kind of funny. I was on the road one time. I'm not exactly even sure where I was at, but I was in an Arby's. And you know how when you order your food, they ask you for your name?
Mm-hmm.
Well, while I was ordering, before I give them my name, the lady taking my order, she recognized who I was and asked me if I was who I was, and I said I was. Well, nobody can spell Dreyden. I'm sorry, but they just can't. So I always give them a fake name, like Jim or Bob or something. And, well, out of habit, she asked for my name, and out of habit, I give her a fake name after we'd already established who I was. And then she kind of looked at me funny.
Yeah, that's funny. I do the same thing, too. My name's Lawrence, and
yeah.
Surprisingly, a lot of people don't know how to spell it.
Yeah.
But let's see. So, you're a Kentucky Colonel, is that right?
I am, yeah. I was 14 when they commissioned me a Kentucky Colonel, and that was really one of the highlights of my life, was becoming a Kentucky Colonel, because of what the organization stands for, really. They do so much good throughout the state of Kentucky, and all of the money that the organization raises goes directly to nonprofit charities throughout the state and benefits right here at home in Kentucky. So that's something that's really near and dear to my heart, and I'm so proud to be a part of such a wonderful organization.
Yeah. Do you know how that came about? You actually
you have to be commissioned a colonel by the governor, but you have to be nominated by another colonel first.
Right.
There was a place I used to play at in Dayton, Ohio. And we would play up there, and the lady's name that booked the shows was Norma. And Norma was a colonel, and she thought that I should be one too, I guess.
Yeah.
She booked a lot of bluegrass shows up there with a lot of other Kentucky colonels. And so she nominated me to the Kentucky governor at the time, and he signed off on it. And then the next time I was up there at her place, they all surprised me with the plaque on stage that made me a Kentucky Colonel.
That's pretty neat. I'm a Kentucky Colonel myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, from one colonel to another.
Oh, thank you. For those of y'all who don't know, it's the highest honor that can be bestowed by the governor of Kentucky.
It is. It's the highest honor in the entire state of Kentucky, governor or not. In my opinion,
Yeah, they do a lot of good work. I've got a hot sauce company, and I donate a portion of everything that I get to Feeding Kentucky. I know that.
Oh, wonderful.
The only reason that I chose them was because they were an organization that the Kentucky Colonels donated to.
Yeah.
So I trusted them.
Absolutely. I'll tell you one. I don't know if I should tell it or not, but I'll tell it anyways.
All right, let's hear it.
Since you was asking for stories, I'll tell you this one right here about one time down there at the Hills of Home Festival, which is Dr. Ralph Stanley's festival. We was with. I was down there hanging out on the bus with Larry Sparks, and it come up the awfulest rainstorm you ever seen in your life. And the way the bus was parked, there was water standing outside the bus, right up to level with the door almost. So we couldn't get out the bus without stepping into water. So we was all up there for a couple hours, and Larry reached up and grabbed out a roll of summer sausage and some crackers, and we all shared a roll of summer sausage and crackers, reined in on the bus with Larry Sparks. I thought that's kind of a cool story.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I don't got too many cool stories like that to tell myself, or I'd say some. Let's go to some of your songs and your process, kind of. Now, you've got some originals.
Yeah, yeah. There's been a few that we've released, and some more that'll be out in the near future, probably.
So how does that process go whenever you go to writing a song? Do you play off of another song? You just get an idea, or?
There is no process, really, as far as I'm concerned. I know a lot of folks have a process. I have no process. My mind is unorganized chaos 24/7. And if I get an idea, I'll jot it down or I'll keep it stuck in my head or something until I get a verse. And then if I get a verse, I hope I get a chorus.
Yeah.
And then, we kind of go off of that. So I've been fortunate to have a few decent ideas, I reckon. And I'm just excited for everybody to hear some of the songs that I had locked in the chambers and ready to load and shoot them on out there,
Yeah, that's pretty neat. So whenever you're learning guitar, how long do you think it took you to get from, first starting playing till you felt comfortable doing it on stage?
Well, so when I was probably 8 or 9 years old, I took some lessons on the guitar and I couldn't learn a dadgum thing. And I took it home and put it under the bed. Then a couple of years later, I pulled it out and I said, by golly, I'm going to learn to play this dadgum thing. And I'm not going to say I was good, but within 3 months I was playing on stage.
Okay.
But because it was December when I started learning, 1st of December when I started learning to play, and it was the last of February the first time I played on stage.
Okay. And do you remember that gig?
I just barely. That was at a bar in Grayson that's no longer there, with Todd and Tracy, the Evans brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. What's your favorite Dave Evans song?
Oh man, there are so many good Dave Evans songs. Aside from playing music, I also work for WGOH Radio in Grayson, and we play bluegrass on the air 5 days a week. I've never done a radio show that I've not included a Dave Evans song.
Yeah.
And there are I really like, if I ever get back to old Kentucky, I like that one. Of course, Highway 52. I know everybody says those, but those are just such timeless bluegrass songs. And in my opinion, Dave doesn't get the recognition he deserves in the bluegrass world. No.
Honestly, I think One Loaf of Bread.
Oh, man.
I think that's one of the best bluegrass songs ever written. I mean, it makes me cry
It
about
is.
every time I listen to it.
It is. Now, I'm glad you brought that up. I'll tell you this. I had a friend, actually. It wasn't me, but I did have a friend, and Dave moved to Grayson, Kentucky, a few years before he passed away, which is where I live at, and I'd see him in the grocery store every once in a while or whatever, and he was on one of those scooters that you get on. This wasn't long before he passed away, I guess, maybe a year and a half or something, and he was going down the grocery store aisle, and a friend of mine was there at the grocery store, and Dave couldn't really get up, I guess, or didn't want to get up off the scooter, and he asked the guy to hand him a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of symbolic or something of one loaf of bread there. Dave Evans asked you to hand him one loaf of bread.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I know he lived on my uncle's property for a while. My uncle owns Poppy Mountain.
Yeah.
I guess that's how they got to know each other.
Yeah.
And, he moved into a house he had, and he lived there for quite a while.
And on top of Dave's unique vocal ability, he could write a song. I mean, he could pour the heart and the soul into it, and then he could play a banjo or a guitar on top of it too. So, I mean, the man was really just a wonderful talent out of Appalachian. I mean, I guess he was from Ohio, but that's still Appalachia. Yeah. So Ohio and Kentucky kind of both claim him probably.
Yeah, I'd say. Let's see. What about some other artists? Is there any other artists that really stick out to you as some of the best?
Yeah. Well, I listen to a lot of different kinds of music, aside from bluegrass and stuff, but there's a lot of the old country artists that I really like as well. Like Vern Young, and I would say probably Ray Price is one of my all-time favorites. Big Mel Tillis fan. A lot of those old country guys in addition to the bluegrass music. But, the thing is, a lot of those old country songs, you could take them and easily make them a bluegrass song. The only major difference in some of those old songs from the 50s and the 60s was the instruments being played.
Yeah.
But back then, it was all hillbilly music.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily country or bluegrass. It was just all American, hillbilly, Appalachian, whatever you want to call it. And that's kind of where I try to stand at. I do a lot of shows that are, I guess, considered country gigs sometimes. And I'm going out there and I'm doing the same bluegrass songs with the same, bluegrass instruments and everything. But it's more for a country audience. But I think people resonate with it on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard not to like bluegrass if you like country or vice versa.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you ever take country into your writing whenever you're writing a bluegrass song?
Well, to an extent, and I'll say this too, I don't exclusively write bluegrass. There's songs that I've written that I think, that's a country song, But I don't really look at a whole lot of the genre labels, I guess. I just write what comes to my head, Does
the melody and the lyrics usually come to you at the same time, or is there...
Yeah, usually you get some kind of an idea, and sometimes you might change the melody later on, but you just have something to go with while you're writing it, until you can find something that really makes you feel what fits into it.
Yeah.
And another thing that really, kind of has been a new world for me that I've been trying to get into, and I've done a few of them, and I'm still very wet behind the ears on this, is co-writing.
Okay.
That's an entirely different ballpark than just having an idea come in your head and sitting there and writing it down, Because you get a co-write, you've got you and 1 or 2, 3, 4 other people sitting there in a room bouncing ideas off, and then you get an idea for something and you think, oh, this is the greatest idea in the world, and 2 or 3 other people don't think a thing about it, you have to go into that co-write very humble.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not the best person there, they're not the best person there, everybody's equal.
Yeah.
And that's the way I try to look at life, and that's the best way to look at any of it is just, when I walk into the room and when I'm playing music, I always try to play music with people that's better than I am. Because, for obvious reasons, you're gonna play a lot better if you're playing with people and learning from people that are playing a lot better than you are.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that I'd really like to do is write a song with somebody else. I've written a couple by myself, but I've not really sat down with someone and said, let's work this out.
Yeah.
I think that would be really beneficial. Really.
Oh yeah.
More ideas, more music, more opportunity to make something cool.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing. If you can, always walk into a writing session with somebody that maybe is a little bit better than you are.
Yeah.
Maybe has a little bit more experience.
That's what I like to do with everything.
Yeah.
I like to surround myself with people that are
absolutely
a little bit better than me in my eyes, at least.
Yeah.
Something that I can learn from.
And the other thing about bluegrass, whether you're playing guitar, you're singing, or songwriting, whatever it is, you're never going to stop learning.
Right.
If you do stop learning, you're doing it wrong. There's guys that can, flat burn a guitar up, and they say, yeah, I sit here and practice and learn new stuff every day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's pretty neat. Who do you think, in your eyes, is one of the better guitar pickers right now?
Oh, man.
Alive today.
of this generation?
Yeah, alive today.
Well, alive today, I've got to say Larry Sparks.
Yeah.
Larry has always been just about my favorite guitar player and vocalist. I mean, the man had so much heart and soul in his voice, still does. He's still out there on the road playing bluegrass, and he can make that guitar you can feel emotion when he plays that guitar. He can make it bluesy, he can make it happy, whatever he wants. He can control that guitar.
Yeah.
It's not just a bunch of notes.
Yeah. I think that's something that really separates, the greatest.
Oh yeah.
From just, people just doing it.
And there's nothing wrong with people that can play all those notes. I mean he can too, And there are so many, but there's something really to be said about knowing when to play them.
Yeah, and especially with the emotion that some of these people can bring out. I mean, it's really incredible, and that they can control it too.
Yeah.
They can. It just didn't happen that way.
Exactly.
They wanted you to feel that way when they played that note.
Everything is intentional.
Yeah.
When you go out, when you watch some of these old bluegrass legends and stuff, and you watch them on stage, not just Larry, but a lot of different, the bluegrass legends, some of them that's even gone on. You watch them on stage, the way they step into that microphone, the way that they step around something on stage, or the way they interact with the other band members on stage as they're taking breaks or singing, it's every bit intentional, It's not just, it didn't just happen that way.
Right.
So.
Well, speaking of picking, you want to pick a song for us?
Sure, we can make some cats holler and people scream.
All right.
Alrighty.
Let's do it.
Here's a true story song about a World War II veteran that I had the privilege of meeting one time. Here's one called Soldier Story. He said, I seen him raise the flag at Iwo Jima, saw the ruins of Nagasaki in Japan, and I fought what seemed like 1,000 battles. I didn't know if I would make it home again. There's memories I've got, I'm glad to have them, but a few of them that I'd like to forget. Like all the buddies that I saw dying that night that they tried to sink our ship. So thank you to the men and the women who have fought to keep this country free. I will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. When they sing, we'll say, can you see? He said, I'm just a country boy from Kentucky, and that's all I'll ever be. But I love my God, my family, and my country, and I love this thought of being free. Well, now he's growing old, he's been forgotten, like so many more, you know. Oh, but let us take the time to remember those who did and didn't make it home. So thank you to the men and the women who have fought to keep this country free. I will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. When they sing, we'll say, can you see? So thank you to the men and the women who have fought to keep this country free. I will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. When they sing, we'll say, can you see? Okay, I'll have to retune here. Here's one of them old bluegrass standard songs that's been around what feels like 100 years. This one's called Dark Holler. So blow your whistle, freight train, take me further home down that track. While I'm going away, I'm leaving today. I'm going, but I ain't coming back. I'd rather be in some dark holler where that sun don't never shine than to be at home alone, honey, knowing that you're gone. That would cause me to lose my mind. So blow your whistle, freight train, take me further home down that track. While I'm going away, I'm leaving today. I'm going, but I ain't coming back. I'd rather be in some dark holler where that sun don't never shine than to be in some big old city, poor me in a small room with her on my mind. So blow your whistle, freight train, take me further home down that track. I'm going away, I'm leaving today. I'm going, but I ain't coming back. Well, I'm I'm going away. I'm leaving today.